Here we are with another episode of Talking Sports with the Legend. Today's guest is Matty Cord from WMGK and from our favorite announcer in the stadium for the Philadelphia 76ers. Go ahead, Legend.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, you're welcome, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Delaware County, out in Glen Mills. Went to St. Thomas the Apostle grade school, and then for high school, I went to Salesianum High School down in Wilmington, Delaware. So, yeah, Glen Mills, and then then I went to college, and I mean, you want the whole story?
Say yes.
And where did you go to college?
I went, Steve, to a college in New York called State University of New York at Plattsburgh. So it's a state school up in Plattsburgh, New York, which is way up very high in New York. It's on Lake Champlain. It's we're about Plattsburgh's about 45 minutes from Montreal, and maybe like about a 15-minute drive to the Canadian border. So we're way up there. In fact, if you take a line, you draw it straight across Plattsburgh, is actually higher than Portland, Maine. So it was cold. We in January during college, there was times where it never went above zero for the whole month.
Well,
So we had a lot of underground tunnels to classes and the cafeterias, and so you didn't have to go outside.
That's unbelievable. What made you go there, Matt?
Well, my grandmother went there years ago, and I had a cousin. My cousin's a year older than me, and he was there. So his freshman year, we were close. I'm not looking for colleges, and he's like, Matt, you got to come to Plattsburgh. You'll love it. Plus, I'm a skier. I love to ski. So Plattsburgh is right near Lake Placid, New York. So I actually got it my first 2 years where I only had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and a bunch of us would ski every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Wow.
So, and then we were right across the lake from Burlington, Vermont. So, Smuggler's Notch, Magic Mountain,
Jeez.
Jay Peak wasn't too far off. So yeah, I kind of went for skiing, which is
That's awesome. That's
less
awesome.
scholastics, more skiing.
what was your major?
Well, Steve, I majored in philosophy and existentialism, which I don't use at all. I mean, existentialism, I can't even spell it. I know it was founded by the Greek philosopher Aristotle, but I did a lot of college radio though, so that's and I did take some communication classes, but I got into college radio really heavily into that was my thing. My name was Matt Helm, HELM, and I had like a reggae show and I had a punk rock show, and I was on the college station like maybe 3 days a week, always filling in, and that was my love.
Did you get paid for that, Matt?
No.
It's just like
No.
like internships type of thing, right?
Yeah, we got credit. Definitely got credit
okay.
for it.
That's
And
awesome.
we got free records. This is before CDs, so
Right.
I remember like when The Wall from Pink Floyd came out, we got like a whole box in the studio, and like every DJ got one stuff like that.
That's
And
awesome.
when you're in college, you get a free double album. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool.
I got to tell you, I went to a oblate of St. Francis de Sales High School myself.
Oh, North Catholic?
Yes, sir. And I had a
All right.
yeah, and then we had a cousin. I had a cousin that went to Salesianum in Delaware. His name is Ray McGarry, and he had a couple brothers, and he became an attorney. He works in town. So that's so funny.
Oh.
When you said I didn't know you. I thought you grew up in New York. So Stephen always asks everybody where they grew up and everything. That's one of his
Right.
his
Good
go-to.
question.
So yeah, we were dying to know. I was dying to know. Delco guy, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I was born in Buffalo, New York, and then we moved to Philly. My dad worked for Boeing, so in Buffalo he worked for Bell Aerospace, and
awesome.
then we moved to Philly when I was in second grade.
Yeah.
So
Do you know where Boeing is? Down by the stadium, it's a Union Stadium. Yeah, we go. It's kind of real. But what about 5 minutes from the stadium where Boeing is from the? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my dad was responsible. He helped design the Osprey V-22, which is a helicopter.
My dad was
like a helicopter that flies the speed of sound.
My dad was military, and so was my brother. They both did over 20 years in the Navy.
All right.
So I know what the Osprey is. Stephen, you're doing great. Keep it going, man. You already asked him that one about what his first job was, but ask him his first paid job.
And what was your first paid job?
I used to work, Stephen. There was a restaurant a long time ago. Your dad might remember this, called the Longhorn Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on Route 1. Actually, after the restaurant went out of business, it became Pulsations Nightclub. But I was a busboy at the Longhorn Ranch. We used to have to wear like a vest and a cowboy hat. And I bussed tables. I bussed tables there for like 3 or 4 years. It was a good first job to have because, you really work your butt off, and you made tips, and I could walk home because our neighborhood was right behind the Longhorn Ranch. So it was a fun job.
That's so funny. Steve, tell them where we went last night to eat. Where did we go last night to eat, Steve? Longhorn Steakhouse.
I love the Longhorn Steakhouse. Yes, there's one. Well, I don't know if it's a Longhorn. There's one on Delaware Avenue near us here in Philly.
That's it. Yes, my boss and I ate there a couple times. Yes.
What did you get? What'd you order, Steve?
A cheeseburger.
He's a bacon cheeseburger guy. Tell him when you get on it. He was a busboy. He likes to talk about food.
Mayonnaise and pickles.
Just mayonnaise and pickles. Steven's a plain guy, right, Steve?
Wow. No lettuce or bacon or onions.
Bacon. Bacon. Yeah, bacon. I'm sorry. Bacon cheeseburger well done with mayonnaise and pickles, right, Steve?
Yep.
Go ahead, Steve.
I like it.
Ask him that one. That was my.
How many jobs did you have in radio?
How many different radio jobs?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I've been in radio for over 30 years, so I tell you one thing. I've had a lot of different names. My first name, I was at WBLI in Patchogue, Long Island. I was Matt O'Brien, and then I got a job at the same time. I was working at a station out like in the Hamptons and Sag Harbor, WLNG, and I was Dave Burke.
What makes you change your name? What's that about, Matt? Tell Steve and his followers. I don't know that.
Yeah. So in Long Island, when I was Matt O'Brien, and then if I wanted to work in another station, it was in the same range. So the company didn't want me to be the same name at another station, so I had to make up a different name. So I was Dave Burke and Matt O'Brien at the same time. And it was funny because, you don't realize that's your name. And one day I was at the station LNG where I was Dave Burke, and I'm in the studio, and this guy walks in, one of the engineers. He's like, Dave. And I'm not turning around because that's not my name. He's like, Dave. I'm like, what? He goes, aren't you Dave? I'm like, oh, right. I'm Dave. Like, I thought I was Matt. But so I was Matt O'Brien. I was Dave Burke. Then I got a job down in Delaware at WSTW. I was Matt Clark. And then I went back to Long Island at WDRE. And for about a month, I was Rip Cord.
Oh, I remember
that.
Rip Cord. I remember that. That's funny.
And then I switched to Matt Cord, and I've been Matt Cord ever since. When I went back to Philly, MMR and Y100, and now at MGK.
Is that your birth name?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, Matthew Cord. Yeah. Yeah. People always ask if it's a fake name.
I had to check to make sure.
No, it's a great radio name. I don't know why I ever even started out with a different name.
Well, it's funny because, when you go to high school with somebody, and I went to high school with the guy on TV, right, Steve? What's his name?
Bob Kelly.
And his name was not Bob Kelly in high school. Because I'm Irish. So in North Catholic, you went by last name. So I knew all the Kellys.
Right.
I knew all the Kellys. They were some of my boys, and I was like,
So Bob Kelly's name isn't Bob Kelly. I didn't
Yes,
know that.
I didn't want to let it out of the bag, but sorry there, Bob Kelly. So I won't divulge.
That's all right.
I won't divulge his real name. Go ahead, Steve. Hit him with the next one.
How long have you been doing? Have you been working with the Sixers?
This is my 25th year,
Wow.
Steve, with the Sixers. So I started in 97, 98. That was Allen Iverson's second year. So, yeah, 25th year with the Sixers.
How cool is it to work at the NBA Finals?
What was that?
How cool is it to do the finals in 2000?
Oh, yeah. That was really cool. And that happened early in my career too. So you think, wow, this is going to happen every year. And it didn't, obviously. But yeah, being in the finals in 2001 was so much fun because, we won 2 Game 7s at home. We beat Toronto at home in a Game 7 with Vince Carter missing that 3-pointer in the corner. And then we beat Milwaukee at home in a Game 7. The Game 7 wasn't that close for Milwaukee, but just the excitement of winning 2 Game 7s. And then, to go to the NBA Finals and the Lakers, it's the Lakers. It's a really good team. The Lakers had swept everybody that they played so far. We go to the finals. The first game's in LA because they had the better record. And we win that first game. It's like, whoa, we got a shot here, like it was like, and then the second game was in LA and Shaq fouled out. It was close. Like we could have come back to Philly up 2-0, which would have, I think, changed the entire series. But we came back to Philly, it was 1-1, and then the Lakers just stepped on the gas. They won all 3 games, and they ended up winning the NBA championship on our court. But I always say this, so when they won the championship, they won it in 5. They won it at it was called the First Union Center at the time. It was the only time in the NBA history, I'm pretty sure, that the award ceremony did not happen on the court because they were worried that the fans were going to boo. So the entire award ceremony took place in the visiting team locker room, which I think is a nice little feather in the cap of Philadelphia sports fans. But that other people are so worried about us that they couldn't have a ceremony. And for me as the announcer, I was gonna be the announcer for the ceremony, like read all this. I had like 4 or 5 pages of copy, introducing the commissioner and they're like, forget it, you don't have to do it. We're gonna bring it in the back. So that's kind of a little stat that a lot of people don't know.
No, it's funny, Steve. I didn't know that. You know why? As soon as the game was over, I turned the TV off. I turned the channel.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's awesome, man. Steven's got over 6,000 followers through his 4 social media accounts, and he gets a lot of feedback, and we get a lot of great people. So I appreciate you doing this, but we got a couple more to go here, Steve. Come on, man. Let's get Matt's got to work this morning, right? You got to work this morning, Matt? You work?
I'm on MGK this afternoon, 4 till 9, and then I got a Sixer game tomorrow. Yeah. Although we don't know what time the game's going to be tomorrow now. It was originally scheduled for 8 because of the Eagles game. But now that the Eagles have been pushed to Tuesday, there's a chance they might make our game at 1 o'clock tomorrow, which I'm hoping. I'd rather do a 1 o'clock game than an 8 o'clock game.
Tell them about our situation, Steve.
Yeah, we have tickets.
What do you got, Steve?
We got tickets to the Eagles
for Sunday's game.
Yeah.
Oh, now can you go?
Now Tuesday. Yes, we're going.
You're gonna go, yeah.
Yes, we're going. I don't care. I said me and him try to go to 1 game a year, and we seen every NFC East team, and then of course we seen like 5 or 6 others, and we didn't go every year, but we've gone the last like maybe 10 or so off and on. And the COVID, we missed. So this year, he said to me a couple weeks ago, Dad, let's try to get to the Redskins game or the Washington football team game. And I said,
yeah, I keep saying Redskins.
And I said, let's do it. And, Steven doesn't, he asks for everything, but he doesn't get as much as he doesn't get half the stuff he asked for because tell him, Steve, he's asked to go to the spring training every year. Yeah. We finally got him that last year.
I'm too old.
Oh, that's cool. So you've been to Clearwater, Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's a fun.
Right before
That's fun
COVID.
down there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So
Clearwater's a blast.
this next one is my question that I threw in there. Go ahead, Steve.
Did you ever meet Dave?
Zinkov.
You know, I never met Zink. You know, I've been close to him, you know, but never. You know, Zink died Christmas Day in 1985.
I couldn't remember. My daughter was born
and he pretty much worked with the Sixers until the day he died. Like I think there was a time toward maybe his last year where he would just do the introductions and they'd have someone else do the game part. But I never got to meet the Zink, and you know, he's a legend. I say there to this day, he's the most famous PA announcer in all four sports, you know, and should always be. And I'm really glad I didn't have to follow him. You know, like when he passed away in 85, there was, I think Highlit did some games and some other people. Like there was a good almost 10-year buffer before I got there, because you know, that would have been tough, you know, following him like the next year.
Yeah, well, he was, you know, so famous, and it was because the Sixers were so great at that time. Yeah. And I was in my, you know, heyday back then. I was born in '63. And I came to Philly in '71 with my family. My dad was in the Navy and he retired and moved to Philly. And it was like sports was rough in the early '70s in Philadelphia. And then the Flyers win early. And then I didn't know what hockey was until we got here. And it was awesome. And then it was like, then after that, it was like Sixers, we owe you one, we owe you two, we owe you three.
Yeah, Dr. J, we owe you one. Yeah. I got a great, want to hear a great story, Steve, about Joe Conklin and Zink?
Yeah, please.
So we did the very last game at the Spectrum. It was in 2009. We had we were still playing at the Wells Fargo Center, but we decided the Sixers, like, let's have one last game at the Spectrum. So, you know, Dr. J came and Iverson was there, all these dignitaries, and we played the Chicago Bulls, and they brought in, because Joe can imitate Zinkov better than anybody. So Joe did the intros as Zinkov. I did the game, but, you know, Joe sat next to me for the intros, and, you know, from the University of Massachusetts, you know, he was all zinked up. And so the intros are over and the game's going to start. And one of the assistant coaches on the Chicago Bulls is Del Harris. You know, he used to be a coach for the Lakers. He played.
Yes.
So Del comes up to the table and he looks at me and Joe. He goes, he looked at Joe. He goes, "Wow, so good to hear your voice again. I'm so glad. I mean, that brings me back. I'm glad you're doing great." And then he shook his hand thinking it was Zink.
No.
And then he walked away. And then Joe looked at me and goes, does he realize I would be 100 years old? So Del Harris thought that Joe was Zink. like so good to hear your voice again. Gosh, you look great, and you know, thanks for bringing back the memories.
Oh God, that's so funny. Especially Joe, with you know, we're me, Joe, and yourself were follically challenged, and to think people who think you're that old, it's a shame, man. It happens to me a lot in my job. Oh, you know, and they'll say, "Oh, what are you in your 60s?" And I'm like, "Not yet," but then I'm not offended. I'm not offended. Don't worry. This next one is right in Steven's wheelhouse. Go ahead, Steve.
How did you get the job announcing in NBA 2K22?
Oh, so the NBA 2K22, I actually got an email, you know, and then it was like, would you be interested in working with NBA 2K? That's the company that does all the, you know, the games. And I was like, is this real? Because you get so many emails these days. Like, is this spam? Is this like? And I responded back, and they brought in all the announcers. I went out to LA for a week in last December. Then I went back in July for like 3 days, and it was pretty neat. I think we're going to do the next game too, 23. So I might be going out to LA again in February. But working for the NBA 2K company, they're so much fun. It's so professional, and just to be in a video game is so neat. Do you play video games, Steve?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get it for Christmas.
What do you have? Like an Xbox or a PS or?
PS4.
You got a 4?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's good.
So,
I have it. You know what? Hang on a second. I might have.
Uh-oh. Can you pause?
You have a 4?
Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
I got one for you.
Whoa!
Thank you, man.
Awesome.
PS4,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah.
NBA 2K. Okay, we'll figure out how to get it to you.
Oh, I work right by I'm at 1210 South Broad Street. I do a little commercial at the end of a lot of these because my boss and I grew up in that, not grew up together, but we went to college together. We knew each other since 1981. And I try to remember at the end of everybody's, but a lot of times it runs long and I don't want to stay too long. So Matt, Joe knows where I live, where I work, but I would love to, meet you again in person with Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We'll figure it out.
we'll try to get to a Sixers game is what we're going to try to do. Right, buddy?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, Steven had experience with this Zoom stuff. He's been doing interviews since COVID. And one of the guys he interviewed, go ahead, Steve, tell him who he is. The video guy, remember?
Oh, Jesse Madden.
Jesse Madden, the grandson of John Madden, is
Yeah.
a freshman at University of Michigan quarterback.
Yeah.
You interviewed him?
Yes. And then Steven said, we come up these questions together and he does a lot of the questions and he's like, how cool is it to have your grandpa? And then Jesse Madden told us a similar story to you. His grandpa said, how would you like to sit in on the making of it?
Madden, yeah.
And he said,
Wow.
what? And he said, yeah. And then when it's done, we're going to have you, test him. He said, every year he gets free games, of course. And he said his friends are like, oh my God, this is great. So then I asked him about, did you ever sit in with your grandpa? And he said, unfortunately, because of the age thing, when he retired at the time, he was too young. But he said he did go back or something and meet, all the guys in the booth when his grandpa took him as a high school kid. The Raiders games. That's what he's told me. Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of dads and grandpops, go ahead, Steve. Hit him with that one.
Tell me about your dad. My dad said he used to call in.
My dad?
Yes, your father. What your relationship was with your dad? How he used to call in to the radio station. You would play his messages. I told Steven this is great.
Yeah. So my dad, he passed away 10 years ago, and but he would always leave me voice messages on my phone. He'd always after every Sixer game or an Eagles game, he's a big sports guy. So he'd be like, oh, I can't believe the Eagles blew that game, and I would save all the voice messages and I'd, edit them down and I put them in this thing at work we call Vox Pro, which is like a unit playing back over the radio. So I end every show. I got about maybe 30 different voicemails from my dad, either talking about the Sixers or Iverson's return or Andy Reid's same press conference. And then I got him talking about, hey, Pat Croce's in the paper today. He's got a pirate museum, or hey, you got to read Bill Lyon's column. Bill Lyon, the legendary columnist for the Inquirer that passed away. So yeah, it's neat. We had a really cool relationship. My dad was my biggest fan. And my dad was an engineer and he went to MIT. So two completely different jobs, but he loved sports. He loved music. We went to concerts together, sporting events together. So yeah, it's neat that I can play his voice after every radio show on MGK. It's funny. Like my mom called yesterday and she's like, my mom's still alive. She's 92. She's like, which one are you gonna play from Dad today at the end of the show? And I'm like, why don't you pick it? She's like, oh, I want to hear the one where he talks about bloody Caesars. So it's funny now. I get requests from family members which voice from Jack to play at the end of the show. It's pretty neat. Pretty special.
That is
and I get a lot of calls and emails from other listeners like, oh, it's so cool you do that. I wish I would. Like I interviewed John Travolta. Do you know who he is, Steve?
John Travolta?
Movie guy, right?
Right, very good, Steve. He's a movie guy.
There you go. So Travolta was in the studio once and we were ending the show and I played he goes, wait a minute, you play your dad after. He's like, that is so cool. He's like, I wish I would have saved my dad's recordings. And he's like, he wanted to hear them all. He was, because my dad, John's a big, he's a big pilot guy. He's got, jets.
Yes.
So he was like, your dad worked on the V-22? That's amazing. And I'm like, John just to hear like a celebrity like that say, that is so cool. I wish I would have saved my dad's audio too. You're so lucky to have that. And I am really lucky.
Yep. Tell them what we have with my dad.
What do you got,
Videos.
Steve?
Videos.
My dad loved video. So my dad was a big, he wasn't an engineer, but he was a field technician. My dad had the internet at his house and he talked to one guy, but not speaking, but just typing. And it was awesome. It was like 1992. My daughter was, my dad died in 1995. And I had a great relationship with my dad.
He played T-ball.
He played T-ball. Stephen played
I hit about the umpires the whole time.
1993 was Stephen's first year playing T-ball, and he played for the Fox Chase Champions, one of the organizations that the show you were at. And I was fortunate enough to start working for my boss that year in 1993. So I was off on Saturdays at the time because my boss was open, but he didn't want me to, he wanted me to spend time with Stephen because that's why I took this job. So anyway, Stephen, my dad's like, I'm going to video everything. So he's following Stephen around and he's on the field and nobody cared. So Stephen's going, where's the umpire? He was so mad because they invited a bunch of the kids to go to the All-Star game. Yes, up at Tarsdale Boys Club Field.
Yeah.
And Stephen loved sports ever since he was 2 years old. And he says every game he wanted an umpire. If it was baseball, a catcher, and Stephen wanted to wear the equipment. And the guy goes, is it okay? And I said, he's fearless. He don't care. And he's behind the plate. It was so funny. They were hitting off the tee, but he was back there with his equipment on. And we had a ball. So I love guys like you who have the relationship you have with your father. And that's why I wanted Stephen to interview you. He does most of the picking out. And I tell him some of my favorite people and why.
Yeah.
I told him about you and your father. He was like, oh, that's awesome, Dad. And it's because me and him, we're like, Bonnie and Clyde here, and we go everywhere together. And it wasn't for Steve, I wouldn't have a social life, right, Steve?
Yeah.
See, I don't have any kids, but my niece Lily, who was at that event with you guys, she's like my buddy. We go a lot of places together and sporting events and PJ Wellahan, so I can relate. So we always give people an opportunity to tell us about any causes you're looking for. Like I said, he's got over 6,000 followers. So do you have any causes you would like to send out a message for people to donate money to, stuff like that, especially around the holidays? Some people are doing toy drives and it's not too late to get a toy out there. Yeah. Well, I always support, because I have a niece and a nephew, both with Down syndrome, Lily and Nate. So anything for Down syndrome in Pennsylvania, anything for that is awesome. That's where my heart is. Yeah. Always work for those kids. And, they have good camps for these kids. Board of Leaf, and then the PALS program, which is great for these kids. So that's either one of those I always try to support. I knew there was a connection with that. And I know I've heard you talk about Lily before. And once again, another reason why we love listening to you, and we're so happy. Look for Lily. She works at the Eagles. She's part of the event staff, so she'll be there Tuesday night. He knows he knows somebody else who works there, and is she part of the? She's a part of the event staff. Mary Kate Parsons. Okay. She works for a company called Quality Progressions full time as a supervisor for Stephen. His case working company, and she's a wonderful woman. And we got down on the field a couple years ago. Who did they play that day? Carolina. Oh God, Carolina, and they lost. That was the game they came back. Oh God. Yeah. So Matt, this has been one of our favorite interviews. Oh, mine too. So far. So I get to talk to the legend. Yes, you were one of the legend. One of the chosen few. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
And don't forget, I'll figure out how to get this to you, but
maybe we
PS4, NBA 2K22.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And maybe after the new year, we can get to the stadium. We can get to the stadium or to the WMGK and meet Matt in person. Get him to autograph your hat.
Yeah, all my old hat.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Happy Christmas. Merry New Year.
You got it. You too, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
Bye.